Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment in our new figure showcase series, where we take a look at a new pickup I'm adding into the collection. Now usually these would be more recent releases, but in this case I did a little backwards collecting and picked up a set of figures that I initially passed on when they came out around 2018. But I was always regretting missing out on them. But I was able to pick them up finally, and shout out to my friend Fabs for giving me a great deal on the set. So for today's installment, we'll be taking a look at the 6-scale version of Newt Scamander from the Harry Potter prequel movie, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. So where to start? Obviously for me it was nice to get another story within this Wizarding World universe, and I actually liked the movies, although they did feel slower paced than the Harry Potter saga. But it was an interesting look into different areas of the Wizarding World. Now, there was some recasting controversy after this movie, which we'll get into when we look at the Grindelwald, but unfortunately the movies were a tale of diminishing returns, and the series ultimately ended with the third installment, even though they did have more planned. There was also, there was a bit of a conclusion there, and if you're familiar with the story, you know ultimately where it ends up, but again, at least they kind of closed things up. And as for Newt, it was a very interesting portrayal of the character. I liked the quirky nature that Eddie Raymond brought to the character, although again, I know not everyone was crazy about that. And that's kind of the story here. A lot of conflicting responses. But I thought it was a decent story that I would have liked to see develop more, but also might have suffered a little from not having a fully planned out storyline. Also note, we will be taking a look at the special edition, which includes the fully grown Niffler. But overall set we're getting here is actually pretty simple. You get some hands, some Nifflers, the Bowtruckle, his luggage, and a display stand that includes that rectangular Hot Toys base with an interesting stone pattern card on top. So overall, it's not actually an accessory heavy release, but I think what you're getting here is pretty decent. Although I do wonder if today you might get some kind of a diorama base as an added incentive to get an exclusive. So let's jump into the accessories a little bit more in depth, and we're going to start with the hands. So you get two relaxed ones on the figure, a splayed out hand for posing, two gripping hands to hold some of the accessories, and the highlight for me here is the one that's pre-posed and pre-sculpted with the wand already attached. The wand is such a small accessory that I think it would be tricky to pose it up in a hand, so I like that Hot Toys did this because it also helps everything just look more natural. And of course the paint apps here are pretty great, and the sculpting are excellent, as we would expect from Hot Toys. Next, you do get a separate wand, so if you don't want to use the pre-posed one attached to one of the hands, you do get a separate version. Look, it's tiny and really simple. It does have some details at the handle and some slight color banding. Otherwise though, it looks like simulated wood. It's nice to have, and it's done well for a small piece, which Hot Toys does well all the time. Next up, you get a book, and it is Newt's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Very simple, and it's a soft cover version. It does have a metallic print on the cover and some ornate images of creatures with the title very clearly legible. The back is simple and just has a Fantastic Beast title imprinted in the center, while the spine has the title and continues on with those ornate features. The book does open up, revealing some text on the pages within, although if you flip through it, it's basically the same print for these two creatures over and over, with what I think is a thestral on the one page, and I'm not sure what the other one is. I don't mind that. After all, I don't know that most people would focus on the book in the display, but it's nice to have, and there's some nice detailing here. And next accessory you get is a very small card with Nicholas Flamel's name imprinted on it. It's, again, small, but it's well printed on a decent stock paper, but it's really simple, and it's not an accessory that I think is going to blow anyone's mind. It's nice to have just that reference to Nicholas Flamel, given his cameo in this movie and his importance in the Sorcerer's Stone. Now, next up, we get some magical creatures, which is great. So first up, you get the Bowtruckle, which is honestly, to me, one of the most memorable creatures in the movies. And it's nice that he's very much Newt's friend, always wanting to be by his side. Now, Hot Toys did a decent job here. I mean, the guy in the movie is very thin, and I think if Hot Toys had tried to do something a little thinner or smaller, it would have just fallen apart. But what you get here is a great representation of the creature, with the little eyes, the leaves coming out of his head, and his appendages all in a nice variable green. He also does include his own small acrylic stand if you want to pose him at Newt's feet, but you can also pose him on the jacket without. Next up, you get the Nifflers. Look, these guys were pretty entertaining, even the first movie where the first one escapes in the bank and starts just stealing all the gold. So the exclusive here is the larger one, who appropriately enough is holding that coin, and he's kind of about to stuff it into his belly. And then you get a bunch of babies, including one with a coin as well. You are supposed to be able to stack these in a little pile, so I'll see how that works out, but they're all actually pretty cute with the different paint apps showcasing different fur colors along with some white highlights. And final accessory is his luggage. Now, I know it's described as a briefcase, but it kind of looks like luggage. luggage. It looks great though, with the weathered leather-like sculpt and paint around the surface, including the brass clasps, and the handle actually feels like leather material. There are nice details at the corners as well. It just looks nice overall, and it does open. And inside you get the nice lining, and at the bottom you do have a slight lenticular piece that's glued on, which shifts between his clothes and the access way to his home. The other thing you'll notice, the suitcase lid is pretty bare, and that's because Hot Toys included a sheet of stickers with this one, containing the newspaper cutout of Tina Goldstein, some drawings of creatures, and so on. So you kind of get the option of customizing the suitcase a little bit. But now, let's move on to the rest of the figure, and we'll start with the sculpt. And look, Hot Toys, even in the last 6 years from the time this release was made, has been making some amazing strides in terms of their sculpts, especially recently. But I still think this is an awesome looking portrait, and it very much looks like Newt to me. The sculpt does have that standard non-expression face that Hot Toys gives us more often than not, but the likeness again I think is there, and the hair, while sculpted, does give you that disheveled look that we saw in the movies that was such a distinguishing physical characteristic for Newt. It's all really solid though, and the eyes again have that awesome paintwork where they look lifelike. As for the rest of the figure, it's easy to say just a guy in a suit or some standard clothes, but this thing in hand is stunning, and Hot Toys just killed it with the tailoring, with all the layers starting with the overcoat, the suit jacket, vest, and shirt below. The material they chose is great, draping nicely on the figure, and it feels sturdy. This is really a great piece, right? The jacket has all the great button details and the nice stitching around the lapels, stitching around the sleeves and the pockets as well. The vest looks great with that nice burnt orange look, and the jacket is also wired at the base, so you can pose it up if you're so inclined. But the overall look here is nice and clean cut. Even the pants have a nice crisp look to them, and the shoes or boots actually look very classic. And that's really the feel I get when I look at this guy. He's just very classy. Looking at the figure, I've got to tell you, I'm really happy that I got the chance to pick him up. I know he's not a Star Wars character or superhero, and the movies he's from weren't the most popular in that Wizarding World saga, but there's a nice flair to him. And I think Hot Toys really captured the spirit of Newt with the luggage and with the creatures he comes with. I don't know that I have any real complaints here, to be honest. Maybe just that the jacket does somewhat limit arm posability, but it's not even that limiting. So it's a small issue, because even with that heavy drape of coat, you can still get him to do some decent poses. And I really do love the preset hand with the wand. It just makes things so much easier, although I do worry if the figure were to ever take a dive, that wand would probably snap. And then having the creatures really does also add something to give the figure a little more character. And between those and the figure being pretty posable, you can get a decent variety of looks out of him, even if he does seem like he might be a little simple at first. Like, even the ability to get him to sit on his luggage, that's pretty fun. Not sure that it's going to be how I choose to display him, but options are always great. If I did have to nitpick anything at all, I just wish they had included some other creatures. The ones we got here were key to the movie and the series, so I get it, but there were other smaller creatures that would have been nice to get. But like I said, that's a total nitpick, because the cost to do that might have been prohibitive. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, the movies just weren't that popular or that successful, so I don't know that there was any real incentive for Hot Toys to go above and beyond. But even with that consideration, I'm impressed with what they did here. And look, Newt and Grindelwald are actually the only Wizarding World characters we've gotten from Hot Toys. Otherwise, Star Ace has held the Harry Potter license for a while, releasing figures that frankly I don't think compare to these at all. And now InArt is jumping into the fray with figures from Harry Potter from that first movie, although even they seem to be indicating that they have no plans to go farther than that initial movie. So it might just be a license with very limited appeal. So I'll be happy to even get any characters right now. And I'm looking forward to seeing these two standing next to those InArt pieces as well, and just having a Harry Potter Wizarding World display. So that was honestly a quick look at Newt Scamander from Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. I'm very impressed with the figure and happy to have him in hand. And honestly, I can't say I have any major complaints. So a great figure if you're a fan of this series. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, thanks for watching. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider dropping a like, comment, or subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.